Better Call Saul may have delivered its finest episode yet with Bagman. Season 5 episode 8 was my favourite episode thus far, and it was directed by writer Vince Gilligan. In this episode we get what I like to call the Better Call Saul version of 4 Days Out from Breaking Bad. It focuses its attention on Saul and Mike, who may be involved in highly treacherous lines of work, but right now the biggest threat to their safety is the vast arid landscape they're trapped in. I'm going to be giving you my overall recap, review and breakdown of the events in this episode, like I have done so far for all of Season 5. If you want to see more Better Call Saul recaps and reviews, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoy this video, remember to give it a like rating. Without further ado, here is my recap and review for Better Call Saul Season 5 Episode 8, entitled Bagman. We begin this episode with a cold open as two of the best characters from Breaking Bad return. As a pair of low-level cartel men scrub the interior of a bloody Cadillac, the familiar figures appear in the door behind them. Enter the Salamanca cousins, who pass through the garage and into a back room lined with stacks of money. They count it and they take it. This money is Lalo Salamanca's $7 million bail, which Jimmy is supposed to retrieve. Lalo tells him in the following scene that the handoff is supposed to happen near the Mexican border, 30 miles down a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. Jimmy starts to reconsider even doing this and is faced with a shrug from Lalo, who says that he can get someone else. But it's not that Jimmy won't do it, it's that he won't do it for free. As the previous episode hinted, just make money. At this point, his voice breaks and he names a price of $100,000. Lalo agrees to this and Jimmy returns home to be confronted by Kim. As always though, Kim understands this situation sooner and better than Jimmy does, and also recognises the danger of Jimmy being distracted by a huge payday. She says to Jimmy that you're an attorney, not a bagman. She does not think he should do this and she does not want him to. Her objections have nothing to do with her legal or morality issues, but rather she's just afraid for him now. But Jimmy believes he knows better, and the next day finds him at the drop point, miles from anywhere in the middle of the desert. He brushes the dust from his loafers while practicing his lines. It's as if this were just another con to him, as we've seen him rehearse for situations like this in the past. As a car pulls up and Jimmy mutters his line, the cousins enter with the money. They drop it at his feet and Jimmy starts the long drive home with $7 million of cash in the trunk. Following this, however, a Jeep appears in his rear view and then two more trucks pull out in front, blocking his path. This gang of nameless men want the money. They also want no witnesses. As a gun is pointed at Jimmy's face, blood splatters on his stylish clothing, and it's not his own. It belongs to his would-be killer, who collapses as a hail of bullets rain down. Jimmy covers behind his car in a similar way to the Ozymandias episode when Walt is in the middle of a gunfight between Hank and the neo-Nazis. A lifetime of petty scams has been no preparation for what Saul has gotten himself into. After an eternity, the gunfire stops and his unseen saviour approaches. Mike looks down and says to Jimmy, "You'll be okay." However, the aftermath of this sequence is where things get ugly. Jimmy's car is shot along with his world's second best lawyer mug. Ultimately, Jimmy and Mike end up pushing the car into a ditch. It's as if Jimmy is saying goodbye to one side of his life and beginning the tension-filled other. The only thing left to do now is to shoulder the bags of money and start walking. And there's a lot of walking, a lot of this episode becomes that. But this could have come across as a played out episode, but rather the exhausting nature of it plays right into the high levels of stress that we have seen these characters deal with. The cinematography also has to be applauded here, as they really did capture this with character and fantastic proportions. The framing in particular was something that was simply breathtaking to watch. As Mike and Jimmy continue to slog through the desert, a red and white truck appears on the horizon. One man who escaped the massacre is back and looking for them. At this point, Mike begins to make camp, and Jimmy realises he won't be getting home tonight, and that Kim is going to think he's dead. Mike can't believe that Jimmy has told Kim what he was doing, but Jimmy reiterates "my wife," but of course this makes no difference to Mike. He says that if Kim knows, she's involved. Although Jimmy tries to provide self-doubt towards this statement, Mike says he hopes Jimmy is right. But this comment is one of the surest signs in Better Call Saul that Jimmy is very wrong, and things are about to unravel in bad ways. He refuses a foil blanket from Mike, which reminds him of Chuck's space blanket, and takes out a spare one as they prepare to rest. The next morning, at the same time, Kim is meeting with Lalo Salamanca in an effort to find out where Jimmy is. Lalo, with his unpredictable nature, highlights that he can't believe that Jimmy would tell his own wife about what he was doing. We don't know how this will be dealt with after Jimmy returns with the bail, or if he returns at all, but we know that there is some dark symbolism which is surrounding Kim. Although I personally don't think she will die, there's definitely something that will happen to her. And whether this is physically or mentally in regards to Jimmy, we will have to see. Back to Jimmy though, who is setting out for day 2 of the long walk home. He's sunburnt and dehydrated, unable to do anything about the latter unless he drinks his own urine. All his hustle and persona is worth absolutely nothing out here, a fact that is underlined by every humiliating setback. After he earlier starts to drag the bags of money because they are becoming too heavy for him, he soon realises that the bag has been ripped and money has been left in the direction they have walked. As he goes back to pick up some of this money, he trips over a cactus in what appears to be his last straw. He collapses and says he's done, but Mike looms over Jimmy, telling him to get up, and Jimmy asks how is he still standing and how can he keep going. Mike replies saying that he knows why he's out here and what it's for. This is what Mike has and Jimmy ultimately lacks, a reason. Why is James McGill out here? What is it for? Maybe Lalo has a point. Jimmy is like a cockroach, a survivor, but a purposeless one. A cockroach has no plan. It just scurries to the nearest safe place when the lights come on. It's really the interesting part of this episode because it fully gets inside the two characters and it makes the audience question where Jimmy could ultimately end up. Obviously we know what happens in Breaking Bad, but the ending of the before as well as the after is what we still need to see. And this show, along with this episode, has made us care about that. But moving on to the final sequence, this is where the truck that's been searching for them appears once again. As Mike takes up his rifle, Jimmy grabs the space blanket and scurries. Not out of the light, but towards it, into the blazing sun, into the view of the man who's chasing them. As the truck bears down on him from behind, Mike takes aim and fires. At first he misses, but the second shot hits, and from this the truck ends up destroyed. But so is the gallon of water that its occupants were carrying, which means at this point there's nothing to do but continue to walk. Jimmy uncaps his water bottle and takes a long swig of his own urine. He leaves the space blanket behind and picks up the bags, walking on into the distance. I'm giving Better Call Saul Season 5 Episode 8 a rating of 5 stars. Bagman is a thrilling, highly consequential installment that is equally self-examining as it is explosive. It clearly echoes Breaking Bad's style and rhythms, especially with Vince Gilligan at the helm. But Bagman also echoes the past and future direction of Better Call Saul. It manages to include interesting references and allusions to the show's past, like Mike offering Jimmy a space blanket, which obviously reminds him of Chuck, and Jimmy keeping his urine in the Davis and Maine bottle. Each episode of Better Call Saul seems more engrossing than the last, and now that the show's separate storylines are collapsing in on each other, it truly feels like the finale has started. We'll have to see how the last 2 episodes end this season, but everything we have gotten so far has been nothing short of masterful. So let me know down below what you thought of episode 8, and tell me what else you picked out or any predictions you have for the final few episodes. If you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe and turn on your notifications to stay up to date with all of my other Better Call Saul reviews in the weeks ahead, along with content on other great shows like Westworld, as well as movie related topics. Also, don't forget to give the video a like rating. I hope you guys enjoyed the recap and review. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.